It just says we're live.
Oh. It says we're live?
I'm Joe. Nice to meet you, brother. I love watching you grow up.
Yeah, you're right.
So you just want to go into it now?
I guess. Why isn't anything playing?
I'm Joe. Nice to meet you, brother. I love watching you grow up.
He's pulling down his pants. Put up your pants, my man.
Touchdown!
Is this the Tiger?
Fernando Tatis Jr., a grand slam.
Iguodala. It's funny to hear females talk about routes. Like,
Pull up your pants. Take off the bra and be a man.
Welcome to From the Backseat, hosted by Clark and Ethan.
it's funny.
Sorry for that weird introduction, everyone. I'll make sure to go cut that out. So I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone's doing good. I'm joined today by my co-host.
What up, guys? Clark here again. Glad to be back after a couple-day hiatus here. Got some good stuff, plenty of stuff to talk about over the last week. So I'm really looking forward to jumping right into it today.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. We had a lot happen this week, to be quite honest.
A ton happened.
So we can start off with probably the biggest news of the podcast, which is Kay Adams. So Kay Adams kind of knows who Clark and I are. I mean she wouldn't be able to pick us out. She left a comment. She's seen my face before. That's fun.
That is fun. That was wild. I mean, again, I think that comment that she left to that person, that was pretty funny. I mean, I definitely laughed at it when I saw it. I couldn't even believe it was real. And then again, like the video itself, like very simplistic, and people clearly were a big fan of it. So
clearly, most liked video, most viewed video, most shared video. It's our most anything.
Most everything and anything. It did phenomenally. So that was very nice for us to see.
Thank you to all those that watched it. Thank you to all those that laughed at it, shared it with your friends.
Always good to know.
And then this is actually a story we're going to talk about, but we'll just talk about it right now because it's other podcast news, which is Antonio Brown.
Yeah, man.
If you aren't aware or have been living under a rock for the past, I don't know, like 4 days, Antonio Brown has made giant waves, and we definitely benefited from it, but feel bad for the guy.
I mean, look, so here's the thing. Like, I do feel it's bad for Antonio Brown. I certainly think he has issues that certainly need resolving. I don't know to the extent that what they are. But the one thing with AB that I never really understand is like, yeah, he's so like his behavior is not that surprising. The dude is also, I'm pretty sure, like assaulted 2 security officers at Central Michigan in his time there.
Yeah,
he's never been like a super stand-up guy, but yeah, the level to which it's gotten to at this point is just like mind-blowing. I mean, this is a dude who, 2 years ago was still considered a really good receiver, and now is out of the league and in hotels in Dubai, like just flashing his stuff and and editing himself into Tom Brady's wife, and which is like crazy too, because like just from that level, like that to me was like wow, because Brady took him in, he let him live at his house, he was like, I mean, there's just a ton that's just cooked. I mean, AB's never getting a shot again in the NFL. I never thought he was going to get one after the whole incident in New York where he just left the field shirtless. But the dude appears to have so many screws loose. It's just absurd.
Oh, it's just crazy. I mean, for those that don't know what happened with Antonio Brown is video opened up Sunday morning before the morning slate of basically AB being naked in a pool, showing off his lower region. Yes. To a bunch of pool people. And then the video comes out later of that he was basically like waterboarding her. He just like took his pants off and then he just showed her his piece.
Yeah, like pretty egregious stuff.
And then he goes and posts this picture of Giselle to, I guess, hit at Tom Brady.
I guess. I don't know. It's such a weird angle to go after, really. I'm like, okay.
Well, what's crazy is his initial statement was like, okay, like it was all the girl's fault, basically. She took my shorts, like all this stuff. And then the next day he's making a joke about it where he's like, oh, I'm coming back into the NFL and exposing the D.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's pretty wild. So, I mean, he's there's not much to say. I just think he's just lost it. He's totally lost it. It's a sad reality, but like I said, AB wasn't the greatest guy of all time, but where he's at now is just like it's crazy. It's pretty sad. It's just sad. It's sad.
Yeah, I mean, feel horrible for the victims involved. I mean,
Oh my God. I mean, just like that poor woman. It's like, what are we doing?
oh my God. And he's in Dubai. And the biggest thing that people need to remember, which I feel like is a sub thing, and I've actually put this into the comments of the video, which I doubt anyone read, is in Dubai, the laws are much stricter, especially on
Oh,
sexual
yeah.
assault. Like, he could be in prison for like a long time for this. Because
I know.
he did it in the Middle East and not. I mean, it would have been bad.
It
in
would have been.
America.
I mean, if it was in the United States, he probably would have been arrested too. I mean, it was
Yeah.
an exposure in a public area, and I mean, I know he's a big figure, but Jesus Christ. So I mean, it was just like it was one of the worst. It's like, truthfully, of caught on camera things of, that I'm like, it's one of the crazier things I've seen get caught on camera for someone who's that big of a former or current sports personality in a while.
Yeah, I have no idea. And we'll get into the Tom Brady thing in a minute, but Leland just brought up a question. Did you see Bennett told Tua to retire?
Yeah, Martellus Bennett. I'm sure he probably did. Here's my thing. If I'm Tua, this won't happen. I would refuse to play for the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, I would too.
I would say, look, guys, I mean, he went back in and he tried to play. I don't know what Tua's role was trying to get him back to that game, but just as a broader scope of things, the Miami Dolphins need to be brought up as like the biggest joke organization of football from how they're run and how they operate standpoint. The handling of this whole Tua situation has just been a joke.
So I want to say two things. Of one, where people are like, well, Tua wanted to play. Yeah, every athlete's going to be
Every
that
athlete
way.
wants to.
Again, look at what Justin Herbert did in the game where they were down by like 28 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Every player is going to want to go out there and play with their teammates, especially when you're seen as the leader of the team.
Mm-hmm.
Leland says it was Martellus Bennett. I don't know this story, so I don't know who this is. Leland, if you have a link, if you want to drop it into the comments, that would be great.
I haven't seen Bennett. I
don't know who this is. But if it's good content for a video, I'll make one about it tomorrow. But so that's one part of, you can't blame Tua for this because
famous neurologist.
See that. I did see this guy. Yes.
So he's more than just a Twitter doctor or something like that?
Yes, this is the guy who you'd seen the tweet of where before the start of the Thursday night game where he was like, Tua should not be playing. Basically, if he plays, he could sustain like serious damage.
Yeah. Okay, now I know. Now I know who you're talking about.
It's that guy.
Thank you, Leland.
Yeah. So Tua's in a bad spot, and the Dolphins need to be criticized. I mean, people are forgetting in this whole scope, their owner is currently suspended.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's talking about it, but their owner is literally suspended right now. Like, they don't even have leadership at the top because their owner was already scummy. And then they just continue to do this thing with Tua.
I know. I think too Miami to me is such an unserious organization now. Like, that's a team that if I got drafted them, like, obviously no one ever says like, don't go play there. I would be seriously skeptical if that was my destination. I'd be like, all right, you guys clearly don't care about player safety. Your ownership is flaky and doing bad and, mistrusting things. Why would you want to play for an organization like that?
Wait, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Would you rather you are number one pick in the draft? You can pick, or I guess it can't be because you really wouldn't pick if you're a number one pick, but you can pick between these two teams. So you're a free agent. Let's do it that way. The Miami Dolphins or the Cleveland Browns?
The Cleveland Browns for sure at this point. I mean,
really?
Look, so with the Browns, bad decision certainly. However, if we're going to compare, obviously the sleaziness, the front office, I think is both certainly there. The Browns, at least in my mind, haven't put, as far as I know, anyone's player safety at risk. That's the only thing. This is really close. I mean, I think these are both scummily run organizations. The Browns handed what is in my mind, again, we've talked about this, a sex offender, $230 million guaranteed, and, all of that jazz and whatnot. But they haven't put a player at risk. They haven't just willfully ignored one's health. So I guess them, if I'm to choose between the lesser of two evils. So, yeah, I'd say probably Browns.
The other thing I want to talk about with the Dolphins is this is the same team. Again, their owner was suspended for trying to get Tom Brady to come be their quarterback.
Mhm.
They put Tua at risk. It's clearly showing they don't really care about him at all.
No, they don't.
Even though he's been playing well. I mean,
no, he has been playing well. I mean, I will say I don't know how massive of a drop off. I like Tua more than Bridgewater, but I don't know if this is going to be some sort of catastrophic, like, oh, Miami's done, because they don't. I mean, when Bridgewater was in, they were still operating okay. I mean, it's not a huge drop off in my mind.
Yeah, I think the one thing that you definitely gain with Tua versus Bridgewater is Tua can run the RPO system much better than Bridgewater.
No,
can.
for sure. I mean, obviously McDaniel might have to make some sort of schematical change overall, which I'm sure he probably will. Like that's the shame about Miami. I think they have a lot of really good, like the pieces of that team is really strong. I mean, they're a team that certainly can contend. I just don't know at this point where they turn from here. I mean, for Tua, I don't know how long he's out because of this. I would certainly hope a while. I would almost hope he doesn't play the rest of the year. But I don't think that's going to happen.
No way.
Also, one thing I will say that really was done to me again. Everyone knows I'm a Bengals fan, but I don't really see how people drew the conclusion that it was a dirty hit and like Cincinnati was playing dirty in that game and why that happened. That was just a play that happens in football. He didn't dive at his knee. He didn't shove his head into the ground. He just wrapped him around and the momentum took him to the ground. And that's what happened. I didn't understand that discourse from Miami fans at all during that game.
If you're going to call that a dirty hit, call the one in Buffalo a dirty hit the week before.
Yeah.
They're the exact same thing. I mean, it's just a quarterback who's getting wrapped up and he's just slammed onto the ground.
Yeah.
Stuff like that happens. It's not malicious. No. You can't make that happen. It's just, that's just how.
I mean, people were like, oh, wow, Josh Tupu, like WWE wrestle. I'm like, no, he didn't. He was moving to his right. Tupu grabbed him. He's a big dude. He swung him around. His head hit the ground. Like, that's what happened. It wasn't like, oh, and Ndamukong's like, he just shoved his head in there. It's a football play. You can't get mad at that. That was one of the more odd things. I did not understand Miami's Dolphins fans going out there and be like, wow, that was really dirty team. I'm like, what?
Well, I think it's because of people see the blood between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals and that kind of rivalry and just assume that, the Bengals are a dirty hit because of the Vontaze Burfict hit 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And people just make that conclusion. But again, it was 6 years ago. Vontaze Burfict isn't on the team anymore. If you want to talk, it's like, if you want to talk about the Bengals as a dirty team, it was really, they just had one dirty player.
Yeah, they had one dirty player and it carried over. I mean, that's what it does. Like usually with those teams, there's very few teams where I'm like, okay, they play dirty.
Besides the Raiders.
I think the Raiders and Steelers are two teams that I constantly think they get away. Like the Steelers, I will always say, like, this is off tangent. Steelers fans complain a lot, but I swear to Christ, that team gets away with more shit than I've ever seen in my entire life. They like Cam Hayward last year with Herbert, like whatever he said his explanation was for that was eyewash. I'm like
just punching Herbert.
I'm like, give me a break. So, and then like TJ Watt last year, Burrow got picked off and he just like threw him to the ground and held his head in. And he was like, I didn't do anything wrong. I was like, all right, dude. Like you guys just do it. It's your part of your culture. And I get it, but it's just like, for the Burfict thing and the Bengals attachment. Yeah, he was here, but he's gone.
That's my thing. I think people assume the Bengals as an organization are dirty just because of Vontaze Burfict. And I mean, we're not trying to defend Vontaze Burfict.
No, not at all. Vontaze Burfict, one of the dirtiest players you're ever going to see. He's like James Harrison level.
It was like really bad. I mean, especially like, I think it was when he was on the Raiders and then he like dove.
Oh, yeah, Jack Doyle. Doyle. Yeah. I mean, the AFC North for sure in its own right is like when the AFC North plays each other, I think that's easily the most actively like, okay, I could kill you and really wouldn't care.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Just as Leland says, AFC North behavior.
That's exactly what it is. The AFC North is like, I mean, probably not the best division. It's a good division, but it's always like, I will break your back if I want to. Like this will happen. So
for sure.
It's a different energy, but So Dolphins for Tua, back to the original point. I would just refuse to play for the organization at this point. I would just be like, you guys have toasted me. You have taken me out of games. You've stunted my development. And now you've put me in a serious injury, not only in my career, but long-term health-wise.
I mean, I would never get over it if I were Tua of how they reacted with him as a rookie, of where they'd randomly take him out at the end of the games and call Fitzpatrick the closer. Like,
it's stupid. Like that right there is like, okay, fine. You just don't believe in me. Just say it. Like, I get it.
Yeah. Like you just don't think I can win the game.
Yeah. So
I don't know. Yeah, I totally agree. But let's get into some of these other week 4 games. I mean, there were plenty of matchups, and we can really take it a number of ways, but I actually want to start with last night. So last night we had the Rams 49ers, and what I want to focus on is Matthew Stafford.
Yep.
I don't think there's a bigger I don't know if I could say besides I don't know if there's a bigger regression right now with a quarterback in the league. If you're going to talk about a dude who just won the Super Bowl to now he has a touchdown to interception ratio of 4-6. I don't really know if there's anywhere else we can play this. So Clark, what is your reaction to Matthew Stafford's start of the year?
I think Stafford's biggest issue right now, it's the same issue that Jared Goff had when people called for him. You see how much he struggles when he's not getting protection.
For sure.
He is a guy you can clearly see right now is rattled by the pass rush. He's not getting a lot of time as he did like last year, way more upright. It's the same way. When Goff was really successful with the Rams, he was being kept upright. And when he wasn't, things broke down, wasn't good off script. Stafford suffering from the same thing right now. I'm still of the opinion that Stafford will get this right. I don't think people were like, wow, he's terrible. I'm like, I think it's just a bad start. I think McVay is too good of a coach. However, one thing that is concerning with me right now with Stafford too, besides not playing well under pressure, he is getting tunnel vision with Cooper Kupp like he did with Matthew Stafford. Like he did with Megatron. I'm sorry, in Detroit. It feels like that where he's like, I'm only going to throw it to this guy. 25 targets. I get he's your best receiver, but my goodness, you got to look somewhere else.
I totally agree. I mean, those were both of my points. I was going to say, man, the Rams offensive line is really, really bad.
Yeah. They
cannot protect him at all. And again, the Niners have a really good pass rush, but not that good.
Not that good.
Not that good. And then he just stares Cooper Kupp down and force feeds him the ball every play he can. If his other read isn't there, he will just force it into triple coverage.
Exactly.
If his read isn't there, he will just throw it to Kupp no matter what. Which, I mean, if you're a Kupp fantasy owner, you have to be happy with, but my Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, why did they sign Allen Robinson?
No, they don't even use him. They don't. And I know he's not winning his routes as often as he should be, but for what's going on the production-wise, it's like he's essentially useless.
He's useless right now.
Yeah. I think, because I brought him up, is that if you want to see the comparison, how big of a difference an offensive line makes, Jared Goff is having a great year. Jared Goff looks like his prime with the Rams because Jared Goff has a great offensive line again. 11 touchdowns with 3 interceptions with 100 quarterback rating. He's playing great football. Jared Goff, I know he got a lot of rip last year. Jared Goff's been everything the Lions could ask for. They can't play defense right now, but that offense is clicking. And I think to keep in mind from that game against Seattle, which also tipped the cap to Seattle, their offense looks a million times better, which is crazy. But Detroit, what's going on with them? Goff is playing extremely well. They're scoring a ton of points. Last week, he was missing about all of his weapons, and he still put up a great game. And I know Seattle doesn't have a great defense, but it's wow.
Yeah, so what I'll say about Goff is if you're the Lions, I don't think you can move off him after the season if he continues his production.
I don't think so either.
I don't think you can move off him. I think you have to stick with him. I mean, right now, if you were to look at statistics, he's a top 10 quarterback in the league.
Oh, easily. I mean, he's done, again, whatever Detroit asked of him this offseason, he has done it to this point. He's done everything to this point.
Yeah, I mean, and I think if you're a young team and you're looking at, hey, how do we build an elite offense without elite weapons? Put all your pieces into the offensive line. They just show offensive line is that important. Yeah. If you want to look at why you draft all these high picks, why all this stuff, it's them. It's their offensive line is so good. They're just bullying people.
No, the offensive line, Detroit, I know Detroit just needs to hold some teams off the scoreboard, and they'd probably be 3-1. But they're not doing that right now.
What's really weird about their team is Jeff Okudah is a lockdown corner right now.
No, Okudah's played well. He got kind of toasted by DK, but
yeah, he didn't play great he gave up 3 receptions for 100 yards.
No, but he looked better.
I mean, up to that point, he hadn't given up 100 yards on the whole season.
No, so the Lions, I still have belief in the Lions right now. I mean, again, I think when you look at the NFC as a whole, it's like we said, it's not very strong. I mean, just look at I think a perfect example of the NFC South, Atlanta's 2-2, with Tampa Bay at the top of the, Tampa Bay does not look particularly good at this point in my mind. I think Detroit, you're Are they 2-2 or are they 1-3?
They're 1-3.
I still feel okay about 1-3. They just got to play a little bit more defense.
Chicago's 2-2.
Chicago sucks. Chicago, yeah.
Let's talk about the NFC as a whole.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Green Bay. Green Bay is 3-1 somehow. They pulled out the overtime win over the Patriots. Leland, we'll get to Geno Smith in a little bit. There's no way we're going to leave him out.
No.
But how are you feeling about Green Bay? So 3-1. I mean, the Eagles are still 4-0, which I think we both agree right now. You have to feel like the Eagles are the main team right now, right? Or do you still think it's Green Bay?
I still think I wouldn't say the Eagles are the number one team in my mind right now.
I would. They're so dominant.
I would not give them number one. That would not.
I mean, look at the teams they beat too. If you just want to talk about they've beaten good teams. They're the only 4-0 team in the league. They're pretty much steamrolling everyone they play. I mean, they just beat down to Jacksonville by 2 scores.
I mean, I'm still pumping my brakes. They're a playoff team, no doubt. I'm not ready to call them top dog yet, though.
Who's your top dog? Still Green Bay?
Still Green Bay.
I don't think so.
I think Green Bay's still mine. I still have faith. I would say for me,
they should have
now,
lost that game. If Mac Jones had been playing that game, they would have won.
I don't know
New England would have won.
It would have been. I mean, the biggest thing I'm still waiting to see from Green Bay is they just need a little bit more emergence from the outside. They just need either Romeo Dobbs or someone on the outside to step up outside of Lazard, and you'll be okay. They'll be fine. I think the defense is great. I think they run the ball extremely well. Rodgers will get things right. I still think they're top dog. I would still, yeah. I mean, the Eagles would be 2, and then I would say the 49ers would be the 3rd best team in the conference.
See, it's hard for me to put the 49ers there. And I think this is where it just screams to me how weak the NFC is. Because, man, is Jimmy G playing bad. He's playing bad,
but the thing is, for the 49ers, it really doesn't matter. He just has to run the system.
I know, but that Debo touchdown, which
that should have been a pick 6. I was inches away from being a pick 6.
That was, again, Debo just made that into a miraculous play. But that thing should have been 6 the other way.
I know we talked about it last week, but the team would be so much better if Trey Lance was operating it.
I know.
It'd be way more explosive.
Again, people are like, oh, he sucks.
That's the thing too. People are still watching Jimmy G, and they still when it comes time, when it really matters, that guy will not win it for you.
For sure.
He will lay an egg.
For sure. But let's talk about the maybe biggest breakout player of the year, which Leland has been talking about. Let's talk about Geno Smith.
I mean, holy smokes. I mean, who would have thought? I mean, the Seahawks were a team that everyone was like, this team's drafting first. This team's drafting either 1st or 2nd or 3rd overall.
Yep.
The Seahawks offense in every way has gotten better. In every single conceivable way from last year has gotten better. And that is crazy considering Russell Wilson isn't there. It's Geno Smith. This is a team that is hanging up points like crazy, is way more, one of the most efficient offenses in football. And they're doing it in all different ways. So the Seahawks, I don't know if it'll continue because I feel like they've played inferior opponents, not particularly great teams to this point. Maybe we saw 1 or 2 of them. I don't know if it'll continue. However, if you're Seattle, you got to feel really good about where you are right now.
Yeah, so Leland brings up the point with how he's playing. You got to question if you need a quarterback after this year.
No. So here's the thing: you still draft a quarterback.
I think you still do too. I mean,
he's fine, but here's the reality of the situation: he's not someone you build around.
He's not he's not going to win you a championship.
I think that's the point. The real thing with the quarterback position that I have always firmly believed is if you look at him and you can't say, yes, we can win a championship with him, there's no point in keeping him. There's no point in having him on there.
Well, so the other thing I want to bring up about Geno Smith is I think it's the same point kind of with Jared Goff is the Seattle offensive line is also really good.
It's playing really, really well.
It's playing at a really high level. And I think it's kind of the Jared Goff thing. You can't fall into these ideas of, yes, these quarterbacks are really good right now because the offensive lines are giving them so much time. And especially in Seattle, if you give them so much time, you still have Lockett and DK on the other side.
Yeah, see, here's the thing, another thing with Geno, okay, put up good numbers, but he's played Denver, beat them. I mean, week 1, he was good.
I mean, they should have lost if it weren't for a ridiculously stupid Hackett decision.
Detroit's defense can't stop anyone right now. Atlanta can't really either. And San Francisco stonewalled them. I think if you're a Seattle fan, you're good with them for this year. But if you can flip them for something at some point, do it. Don't waste your time. Everyone like Geno Smith. This is this is my thing. This is the best you're going to say Geno Smith play. This is the best he's going to be. You're not going to get anything better. And I don't think this can ever win you a Super Bowl. I really don't.
No, I mean, for sure. I mean,
it was certainly, they looked smart for picking him over Drew Lock to start. That's for sure. They made that solid evaluation.
I mean, and the other thing is, let's talk about the flip, which is Russell Wilson. I mean, we talked about Matthew Stafford as maybe the most disappointing quarterback so far. Russell Wilson is right there neck and neck with him.
Yeah, again, this is a guy that people called us crazy for not having him inside the top 10. They called us crazy.
I said he was 11, and I was crucified for that decision.
That's like, again, I know it's not just on him because I think Nathaniel Hackett has been really bad, like inexcusably bad. However, Russell Wilson does not look like the same guy. This is a dude who looks off. This is a guy who looks like he's taking a step back. And this is a team that looks like it's going nowhere in Denver.
I mean, again, they were playing the Raiders secondary. And
I don't know.
They put up 23 points. I mean, I know you could say, hey, the Chargers only put up 24, but the Chargers were like sleepwalking throughout the second half of that game because they were up so big. I mean,
it's just, Denver. Russell Wilson does not look good. I think Nathaniel Hackett's a joke. He's clearly a joke at this point. And I honestly think he's a one and done.
I think if you're Denver, you have to think about it because you invested so much money into Russell Wilson. You just can't
can't have this guy flounder here for another year. Your expectation is to win now. And really, I will be quite frank. I talked about this too. Denver's weapons aren't as good as people think they are. There has been this overhyping around guys like Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, and the reality is they haven't done anything to this point in their career. They look fine talent-wise, but talent and production, as everyone knows, is two very different things. They have flashes, but not enough consistency.
Well, the other thing, let's talk about Hackett for a second. The stupidest, and we can talk about all the coaching decisions and game management, which is horrible, but the stupidest decision he had made up to this point is his running back rotation. His running back rotation was awful. The fact that Javonte Williams just tore his ACL, so he's out the season.
Like ACL and PCL, it's going to be a long run. It's like J.K. Dobbins saying. It sucks. I feel terrible for him.
I feel awful for Javonte Williams, but the fact that he was splitting carries, like at a third split, was awful.
Well, there was nothing to support him even getting splits. His carry numbers, his efficiency was vastly better than him. And Melvin Gordon has fumbled 4 times in 4 games, and he still decided to rotate the two of them.
And Gordon's going to be the feature back.
And good riddance. That shit's going to suck.
Well, the other thing is, let's talk about Melvin Gordon. Because I don't know if you saw the video of his post-game press conference where somebody basically asked him, hey, like you were working on protecting the ball all week this week and you fumbled again. Like, so what are you going to do this week? And he just got up and left.
I mean, tough question, but it's a valid one.
It's a valid one.
If you sat there and that happened and you like talk to people like, hey, I've worked on it, and then you do it again, then it's fair to ask, okay, well, what are you going to do this time?
Yeah, like clearly that didn't work.
Clearly that was not an efficient tactic, whatever you use. So it's a fair question. To get mad at that is a little bit ridiculous and childish.
I mean, this is the thing about Melvin Gordon. Again, he was on the Chargers for 5 years. He had a fumbling issue in LA. This is nothing new.
No, he drops the ball a ton.
This is nothing new. He kind of figured it out at the end of his tenure at the Chargers, but ultimately they let him go because of the turnover concerns.
Exactly.
He literally puts the ball on the ground all the time.
He's just, and again, now he's your feature back, and it just makes Denver's offense look that much worse. And you're just like, what the hell are we supposed to do? So I don't know what Denver does. I think overall, really the AFC West. I mean, again, this is supposed to be the gauntlet of the division, and I don't see it at this point. Like the Chargers and Kansas City, I think are good. Kansas City, a head and shoulders above just about everyone in the AFC. I feel like the Chargers, I think are a good team, and then the Raiders, I feel like a lot of teams will handle them. And at this point, Denver, I feel the same way too.
Yeah, I mean, right now the crop of the AFC. It goes through Buffalo and Kansas City. Those two teams are dominant. Kansas City looks like they're just out to destroy everyone. And again, I'm not really impressed by their weapons, but
they make do.
They make plays when they need to.
Well, what helps is to have an alien at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes is playing on a different level so far this year.
And I think a big thing too, actually, is they've gotten their running game is better this year. I think
Yeah,
they're
Clyde Edwards-Helaire is playing
stepped
better.
up. McKinnon has been good. What's his name?
Pacheco.
Pacheco's been good. They have 3 good rotation guys. And then the reality is, like we talked about, Travis Kelce's essentially a wide receiver 1 for what he does. Matchup nightmare, makes every sort of route combination you want, beats everyone. And then if you have guys like Juju and Nicole Hardman, like, you live with it. They work better because people are so concerned about Travis. And then when you have an alien at quarterback and when you have a mastermind in Andy Reid, it becomes very difficult to stop. So, like, I'm with you. I think the tier-wise in the AFC, to me, is like you have Buffalo and Kansas City, and then you drop down to teams like, Cincinnati, the Chargers, Baltimore, where it's like, okay, really, really talented, but there's too many inconsistencies right now for them to be elevated to the top. Like Baltimore should be, but they keep finding ways to lose.
Okay, so let's talk about Baltimore, because when I was not watching because the Chargers were on, so I was watching the Chargers game.
Yeah.
So I did not realize afterwards the decision John Harbaugh made on the 4th and 5 from the 5-yard line when they were tied. I thought everyone was freaking out. I thought Baltimore at the time was up 3, so a field goal would have made it 6. So I didn't get why everyone was complaining, because I'm like, there isn't that big of a difference between 3 and 6.
Yeah.
But to be tied and to not take the points there, again, I get that you think Josh Allen's going to go down and score a touchdown, but oh my God, take the lead.
I agree. I think the reason Harbaugh wanted it to do it there is for the reason you decided. Buffalo had found their groove in the second half and they were moving at relative ease. However, I am with you with the conditions in which they were playing in, wet, soggy, they're on real grass, so it's going to move around. I would say, take the points there and just hope your defense can ride it out. So,
because I get Buffalo got all the way down to the 1-yard line, but again, there's no saying that they would have actually punched it in a real game setting.
Exactly. I mean, the Ravens are they're an enigma to me at this point, because you have an argument where they could be 4-0, but they're 2-2. And they've outplayed teams consistently this year. However, again, when you find ways to lose, that's when I get sort of concerned.
Well, the issue is their defense is just really bad. I think we just need to name that. Their defense is just bad.
Yeah, I mean, the defense is bad, and I still, for Lamar's sake, I mean, like, if you look at it, he does everything for this offense. The running game is still not there. Outside of Lamar Jackson, they had what? This is 22 carries for 93 yards outside of him.
I mean, that's not horrible.
That's not horrible, but it should be much better than that.
It's just under 5 yards a clip, but I mean, it's not horrible. But the one thing I want to talk about is everyone's talking about Mahomes, like Mahomes the alien. Look at these backyard plays. Okay, put some respect on Lamar Jackson's name.
No, Lamar deserves the respect. He certainly does. I mean, this is a guy like we've talked. He's going to get paid. I mean, if Baltimore's not going to give it to him, someone else will.
Lamar, I know people are saying Mahomes is playing like the best quarterback in the league, and I get it. But to me right now, I think Lamar's playing like the best quarterback. If you're just MVP-wise, no one's putting his team on his back like him.
I still think I would take Mahomes as MVP right now over.
I don't know.
Mahomes is 3-1.
I think it's the thing of right now, Lamar has like what I consider one weapon, and that's Mark Andrews. And he is doing everything. He's the running game. He's the passing game. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, it's close. I think right now for your MVP, it's pretty much a 3-horse race. I mean, it's Allen, Lamar, and Mahomes, which I think still, and Hurts. Hurts is obviously in there too, I think, to some extent.
So why we're talking about MVP? So I saw this today on Twitter. It was a Buffalo fan saying this is the stat that makes Josh Allen the MVP. And it was that Josh Allen is responsible for 100% of the touchdowns this year, that either they were rushing or passing. Do you think that's an MVP stat, or do you just think that shows your running game sucks?
A little bit of both. I think it's an MVP stat to an extent, but the running backs could certainly be more efficient for Buffalo too. I like Singletary. I don't feel like they use Singletary enough. So,
yeah. But so Leland just let a comment. Jacksonville don't look absolutely horrible. No, they look good. Like they look like a good team. I would put them in the tier of the Chargers Cincy, Baltimore right now, honestly.
I would. I think the defense is much better than everyone gives it credit for. Although now I still think they win the South, but Tennessee has swayed my mind a little bit the last 2 weeks.
They haven't to me at all.
I think they look a little bit better.
I just think the Colts look horrible.
The Colts do look really bad. The Colts do.
I mean,
yeah, we've talked about
it.
it.
They beat Kansas City, but
a tie versus the Texans, and
no, they look bad. They got shut out by their own division. I mean, they're currently 0-3 in their division right now.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
I mean, yes, they beat Kansas City. They're not 0-4, but I mean, 0-3 in your division to start the year in your first 4 weeks. Come on.
Yeah, I mean,
in the AFC South,
Colts, I don't buy the Colts at all. I still think, yes, the Jags and Titans at this point. Probably, I'm still leaning obviously to the Jags. I think Doug Peterson's a really good coach. I think Mike Vrabel's a really good coach, but I think what Jaguars have on the offensive side, the defense is playing extremely well. I just think they add up more to being a playoff team. So I would still say the Jags are frisky. And people forget they held a 14-0 lead in that game against Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So
Leland wants to apologize for doubting Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, everyone should apologize. Everyone should apologize to Aaron Rodgers every single year because I feel like this is a common thing where people say the Packers won't be that good and the Packers are still good. And even though it was an ugly one against the Patriots, Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers.
At the end of the day, a win's a win. I think what I'm just saying is when I talk about, for people that think I'm like a Packers hater, I'm not. I believe in the team. I've said I thought they were going to be good. I've never not said that. It's just when I compare them to the Eagles right now, I think the Eagles are the stronger team.
Yeah, actually, I will say one team in their division. I said the Vikings would win the division at the beginning of the year. I'm feeling I'm feeling not as good about that.
Yeah, because Kirk isn't very good.
Yeah, Kirk got outplayed by Andy Dalton on Sunday morning. Like, pretty obviously, too.
Like, extremely. I don't know if you saw the graph by that PFF put out, but basically it used expected point average and showed basically versus the opponent's strength of how your offense should have performed.
Yeah.
And the Vikings, like, basically they should have been negative. Like they should have lost to the Saints in every
the Saints though, like, classically in that game got screwed by officiating, I feel like, yet again.
I mean,
it seems like it happens
goes more hand in hand.
There is nothing more that goes hand in hand. They are addicted to it. So I'm like, that's just par for the course. But I mean, for the Saints, I will say this: it'll be interesting if they start Jameis Winston when he's healthy again. I mean, I guess it'll depend. But Dalton looked better than Winston has this whole entire season.
Yeah,
they probably will go back to Winston, but interesting.
So let's talk about one more debate, and then let's move over to the MLB and talk playoffs for a little bit.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Cooper Rush, Dak Prescott stuff?
Oh, Lord. This is going to become an issue only because Jerry Jones, for some reason, is going to want it to become an issue. Dak Prescott should be the starter when he gets back. Cooper Rush has been filled in admirably. But if you don't think the reason he's played really well, again, I'm not taking anything away from him. That Dallas defense is insane. That front four specifically, that changes everything.
Yeah.
Everything. But again, the Cooper Rush is not your starter when Dak comes back. He's not. It just simply can't be.
Well, and everyone's like, he might. I mean, I would not be surprised if Dallas gets calls for him this offseason.
Field the calls and trade him. That's what you should do. No, not Cooper Rush. No, Cooper Rush, not Dak.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not Dak.
Yeah.
You stick with Dak. I don't. Even if you want to say production-wise, they're relatively similar. Dak's ceiling is so much higher than anything Cooper Rush can do.
Yeah, Cooper, I mean, again, he has filled in really admirably for Dallas.
Yeah.
I thought they would be screwed. He's played quite well. But there's no way Dak isn't the starter when he comes back.
No way.
The thing, again, I talked about this last time. The luxury Dallas now has is they can take their time. They don't need to rush this guy back. Cooper's playing well. The defense, the front four is the best in football. Easily the best in football. And I think, again, just to go back to the Bengals, I feel way better about Cincinnati first 2 weeks. You saw two best pass rushes. The offensive line is substantially better because they're not playing Dallas and they're not playing Pittsburgh when they had TJ Watt. So I'm like, okay, makes a little bit more sense. But yeah, Dallas's ability to get the quarterback with their front four is just crazy. It's just crazy. It's what they do.
No, for sure. Is there anything else in the NFL you want to talk about before we move on? No, you know what? We do have one thing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Chargers almost blowing it versus the Houston Texans.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
We haven't talked about it yet. So again, it got close there. It became a 3-point game. But this is what I have to say is any other year, if we were under Anthony Lynn or Mike McCoy, they would have lost that game.
Yeah, they would have lost that game, but
they would have lost that game. So they end up pulling it out. They end up pulling out the win for a team that's as injured as they are right now. And now it seems like they're going to get Rashawn Slater back at the end of the year. They're going to get Joey Bosa. Hopefully this team can turn it around and string together some wins.
I mean, you hope so. You hope so.
Next week, they play Cleveland. That won't have Myles Garrett or Jadeveon Clowney.
No, you guys should be good there. You guys should.
So they should win. And then they get to play Denver, who won't have Randy Gregory or Javonte Williams, which are their best two players, besides for Pat Surtain. Also, side note, Pat Surtain is maybe the best corner in football.
Yes.
He is so good.
Mm-hmm.
And then they play Seattle, who Seattle's been playing well. They might give them fits, but again, if you're a playoff team, you should probably beat Seattle.
No, I agree. I agree.
And then they play Atlanta. So these next 4 games, while they get healthy, should hopefully be a nice boost for them to go up the rankings a little bit. But we'll see. I mean, they just got blown out by Jacksonville. So
yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's certainly an up and down. I mean, the letting the Texans back into it was a little bit concerning. You still saw, in my mind, like if you want to beat the Chargers right now, just run away from Khalil Mack and Treadwell.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Tranquil, I'm sorry. And you're fine.
Drew Tranquil.
You will make your head.
No, I'll tell you exactly what you do. Run straight at Nasir Adderley.
Oh, right at Nasir Adderley.
Nasir Adderley is so bad.
X him, go right there.
If you just somehow scheme it so that Derwin James, Drew Tranquil, and Khalil Mack are on one side and then run to the opposite, because you will get whatever you want. I mean,
I agree. One thing I will say too on the Chargers defense, like we texted this a little bit, but there still seems like Nasir Adderley seals the field way too much for me. I think Adderley's really bad. I think he's been playing terribly.
People love to just go after Tillery, which Tillery isn't very good, but at least he had a strip sack in the game. Nasir Adderley is like literally the biggest liability I think I've ever seen in center field.
And you know who's it's a little bit of a hot take. You know, it's only been about a game or two, I think, for him. But Asante Samuel is better than I think JC Jackson at this point.
Oh, I don't think that's that. I mean, so again, this is the hate on Nasir Adderley. So afterwards, Brandon Staley came out and said on the play that JC Jackson got beat deep, Nasir Adderley was supposed to be playing over the top.
I'm sure.
So, I mean, I want to go after JC, but now I'm just questioning any time I see a blown coverage on the Chargers because
was Adderley supposed to be there?
Yep. That's literally what I'm going to think every single time was that his angles are so bad and everything he does is bad right now.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, again,
let's talk about Asante Samuel, because if you want to take a rising star in the league,
he would be the guy.
He's been lights out to start the year. He's already shown he's one of the top corner tacklers in the league. I mean, anytime watching him get on the outside, going after screens, he can make open field tackles against anyone. He's been a PBU machine. He's been around the ball so much. I mean, yes, he's giving up catches, but my gosh, for a dude making plays right now, it's hard not to talk about him.
Yeah, I totally agree.
All right, so let's move over to the MLB, and it sounds like Clark and I get to celebrate. The Padres have made the playoffs.
Padres have made the playoffs, man, and I feel pretty good about them. It looks like they're going to play the Mets the first round. I actually prefer that to playing St. Louis. And
really?
And here's why I will tell you this. It's a couple reasons. First off, San Diego Padres have not won a regular season game in St. Louis since 2019. They haven't done it. And I will tell you right now, I don't really know if I want to get a piece of Albert, Paul, and Arenado 1, 2, 3 in that 2, 3, 4 in that lineup. I mean, I don't know what steroids Albert's on, but it's crazy. And another thing is that, like, okay, the Mets won tonight twice versus the Nationals. I still feel like the Mets are prone to dumb shit to happen to them. And DeGrom and Scherzer have not looked good over the last month.
Well, I think you also have to talk about, I mean, how did the Mets blow the NL East?
That's the thing. It cannot be a lot of good vibes for that team right now. This is a team that was up 11 games at one point in the season. And I know it was back in like July, But this was like division that, like, their SYN network was saying, see, like, this is over. It's already done. Atlanta's out of it. Atlanta crawls all the way back. They go and they sweep them to take back the division lead and lock it down. I can't imagine it's very high vibes right now in New York. And I would rather play a team that's down than a team in St. Louis who, again, I just don't think it's a house of horrors for the Padres in some way.
Well, I think when people look at the seeding, it's really, you probably rather play the Braves than the Dodgers in round 2.
Gosh, I don't know. That to me, those are equal.
The Braves are playing so well right now. I mean, the
here's
Dodgers are also playing incredibly well.
The Dodgers are playing incredibly well, but I know I'm somewhat of a home. But the Dodgers, they have stupid moments. It seems like every postseason.
Yeah. But again, I mean, if you want to talk about a team that owns the Padres.
No, they do. If the Padres beat the Mets, which I actually like, I'll be honest. I think if the Padres, they're going to play the Mets, I think the Padres have a very good chance of winning that series. I give them a very good shot.
It all depends on how DeGrom and Scherzer pitch.
Because here's the thing. I would imagine DeGrom is going to pitch the first game. We're going to throw you Darvish. His numbers against the Mets in his career are insanely good. Mm-hmm. He owns them, and he has done it time and time again when he plays them.
Yeah.
So if you can beat that, I think you have, again, Snell and Scherzer. Scherzer's been on the decline this last month. Snell has been out of his mind this last month, really since the All-Star break. And if you have to go with your 3, Musgrove and Carlos Carrasco, that's a toss. I think Musgrove is better than Carlos Carrasco. So I don't know. I mean, the biggest thing for me in that series it will come down to is what Padres offense are you going to get? What offense are you going to get? That's really all it comes down to. I think the pitching is going to hold up. I think the bullpen will do well. It's just what's going to show up for the Padres. But yeah, I still think overall we're destined to get a Dodgers and Astros World Series. I think we're going to get it again. I really do.
So Leland brought this up a long time ago, and I told him I'd come back to it. So right now it looks like the Mariners, if they advance round 1, they get to play Houston round 2. Not a favorable matchup.
Look, I really like Seattle. I think it's been a really good story this year. I really think they've done a good job in adding Luis Castillo long-term. That's an ace you can add to your staff. I would throw a lot of money on Houston in that series if I was a betting man. The team I actually think, and I've said it since May, the team you need to be worried about that's not New York or it's not the Astros is the Cleveland Guardians. Watch out for the Cleveland Guardians. This is, again, super young team, a really strong starting rotation. If they get to the 6th, 7th inning with a lead, you are not winning that game. They throw 3 guys out there, namely Kanerchek and Emmanuel Clase, who throw babies. They're impossible to hit. If the Guardians get to the 7th inning with a lead in a game, they will win it. They will just do it. I think truthfully, I don't know what the seeding looks like in the American League. Let me look at it really quick. Like, I'll give you my my bracket breakdown of everything. I guess if we wanted to do that.
Sure, let's go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
so as
not everything's locked in yet.
Not everything's locked in, but if we had to play it as it is right now, I would say in the National League side, St. Louis takes care of Philadelphia. I will say the Padres will beat the Mets.
Oh wow.
Then let's go to the American League side. I will say,
is Cleveland coming out of Tampa?
Cleveland's going to beat Tampa. They're going to host, so they'll beat Tampa. I think they'll beat Tampa. Between Seattle and Toronto, this one's tough. I don't like the Blue Jays pitching nearly as much. I think the Blue Jays have solid pitching. I think their offense is explosive, but typically I feel like in Major League Baseball postseasons, you lean on pitching.
I think you do too.
I would take Seattle in this series. I would take Seattle over Toronto at this point.
I think the Luis Castillo trade this is when it's really going to show why they made it.
Yeah. And then I think Gilbert's been better for him this year. I think I would take Seattle in that series. Cleveland and New York and Houston and Seattle. Houston's going to beat Seattle.
Also, Leland brought up a point that Seattle's 5-2.
No, it's good. The tough part will be there will be in Toronto. That will certainly play an advantage for them.
Yeah.
So, but I would say, again, I think Seattle will beat Toronto in this sense. Cleveland and the Yankees.
I know what I would pick.
I know what I would pick too.
I don't think New York's going to.
I think the Guardians are going to win that series.
I don't know if it's just the Guardians, but I just feel like the Yankees have been
The
not very
Yankees
good
have
in the
not
second half.
inspired me. They have not inspired me in the
I
second
mean,
half.
it's just all again, and we can talk about the simulcast thing from ESPN of showing just Aaron Judge's at bats during.
Congrats to Aaron
college
Judge
football.
at hitting the 67.
Yeah, congrats. I mean, congratulations for doing that, becoming the 7th all time in home run records. Congratulations to him.
Yeah, but like I think truthfully, I would take Cleveland. Like people want to act like there's some sort of massive gap. There is 8 wins separating those two teams right now, Cleveland and New York.
And you have to think about how far ahead the Yankees were at the All-Star break.
Oh yeah, Cleveland has played much better in the second half. Cleveland's been one of the best second half teams there has been out there. Like this was a close AL Central because these teams are much maligned, and then Cleveland was like, "We're done with this. We'll tow it and run away with it." So I would say Cleveland and Houston end up in the ALCS. Houston wins that series. I don't really see there much of a discussion at that point.
Yeah.
I think Houston to me at this point is like, I've texted you this. Houston has been like the Spurs of the 2000. Like they're just so good, people forget. Like they've just been there. On the other side, we'll have Dodgers Padres. As much as I love the Padres, I don't know if that series will be very pretty. I think the Padres scratch out maybe one game.
If they had Tatis, I think it would be a different story.
If they had Tatis, it'd be a much different story, but they don't, and that's what stinks.
I think that's what hurts is right now the Padres lineup outside of obviously Juan Soto, Manny Machado, really they're like core players. They're just not getting enough production out of those. Whereas the Dodgers get production out of every single.
The Dodgers have gotten production, up and down. I think the Padres, I think they probably might be able to sneak one game in there. The Dodgers will take care of business, and then Atlanta will take care of business against St. Louis.
Also, if we do get to a Padres-Dodgers series, I better not see Sean Mania throw one pitch.
Sean Mania won't pitch. If Sean Mania pitches, it'll be in like a bullpen role. He'll come out of the pen, which I'd be okay with. The situational left-hander. I mean, he lets him gas it up a little bit more, but they rock him. Mania will not be making an appearance in that series, if I had to imagine. So, and then from there, Dodgers and Braves. I'm rolling with what I've called since May. I think it's going to be Astros and Dodgers. I think it'll be like a 7-game set between the Braves and the Dodgers. I could easily see the Braves taking it, but I'm not going to sway from what I've said at this point.
Yeah.
And so then from there it gets really close.
Who's your World Series champion?
I just still think the Astros win that World Series.
Who ended up having a better record? It was the Dodgers who ended up having.
Dodgers ended up having a better. They were 110 wins. The Astros are currently at 105.
Okay, so it did end up being the Dodgers.
It ended up being the Dodgers. However, I would still trust the Astros in that series. I think the Astros won it in 6 games.
Yeah, I think it would be really close.
It would be.
I think
tightly contested. Really I think the advantage that it'll come down to for the Astros, I think the starting rotation is better for Houston.
Yeah, but I think the lineup is better for the Dodgers.
Again, postseason, I bet on pitching, not hitting.
Yeah, that's true. It's going to be really close.
Because I think like the first guy you start off with, the Astros can go Verlander, they could go Framber Valdez, they could go Lance McCullers. They have a number of options to go with. And the thing is too, I don't trust the Dodgers bullpen. Craig Kimball's not the closer anymore, but I don't trust the bullpen as much.
No, Craig Kimbrell has been a disaster.
So I think that'll play into it. So I would say my call is Houston in 6 over the Dodgers. It's what I've continuously said. That's my pick for it.
Yeah,
I don't know if you have any disagreements.
No, I don't have that many disagreements. I just think the Dodgers. I would probably predict the same thing, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Dodgers get bounced at some point, especially by the Braves.
Yeah. I think if there's one team that can certainly do it, it'll be the Braves.
The Braves offense is just so productive.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the Braves have they obviously have a certified ace in Max Fried, no doubt in that. But the offense for the Braves is the scariest thing.
I mean, Ronald Acuna probably hasn't even been a top 4 hitter on their team.
He hasn't even been that good this year, but they've had guys like Dansby Swanson fill in. He's been great. Matt Olson's been fantastic at first base. They haven't gotten Albies has been out, and they've still been getting great production.
Austin Riley,
Riley Rakes. You got Michael Harris in center field. What a freaking deal they sign all these guys to, by the way. Unbelievable. Darno behind the dish. It's like they have bats that just hit. They have guys that just constantly hit.
If you want to talk about a team that I think could have like a run like the Dodgers have had in the NLS, I think the Braves, the way that they sign contracts so early and build all these team-friendly deals, I mean, it's hard not to see that this is the writing on the wall. Like, yes, the Mets can contend, but the Braves are just going to have this young core forever and ever, and they're paying him nothing.
I know, exactly. So, like, that's the thing. If you are the Braves, you have all of your core signed, young, cheap. If there's a guy out there that you want, you can go sign him.
It's no big deal.
No.
And you don't have to get rid of anyone.
It's just the way it is. And I think, I just think, the Braves to me are just stacked up. The lineup hits, the pitching is good. So, yeah.
All right, so let's end today's show on who's y'all's MVP. I'm guessing this is for the MLB.
Yes, so AL and NL.
I mean, for me, for the AL, I got to give it to Judge. The dude hit 62 home runs.
It is Aaron Judge. However, I hope Shohei Ohtani still gets a number of first place votes.
Yeah, I think he deserves to. But I think I said this in a previous show of like
it's because what Ohtani did last year. It's not as much of a shock.
Exactly.
Although I would still argue that Ohtani is more valuable than Mike Trout and just playing terms of value.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, he's an elite pitcher and an elite hitter.
So I don't like when people say, "Oh, there's no question, it's Judge." There's a very real question. Judge is lucky, not lucky. Obviously, it took skill to get 62. If he didn't have that record, it would go to Ohtani, I think.
Well, the other thing is if Ohtani didn't win the MVP last year, I really don't think it would be a discussion.
No, it wouldn't be.
Like, I almost thought in the NFL, I thought Brady would end up pulling out the MVP just because Rodgers had won it the year before. I mean, voters think like that too.
You know what also helps Judge?
What's that?
He's in New York and Ohtani plays for the Anaheim Angels.
I know his team is the number 2 seed, whereas Ohtani, people are going to call him not a winner or whatever.
Yeah, so I would say, yes, Judge is my American League MVP. National League MVP is a little bit more difficult, I think, though. I think that is a conversation that certainly should be had more, but it is not. I
think it's probably called Paul Goldschmidt right now.
Paul Goldschmidt certainly leads in ML MVP odds. My personal MVP would be Machado. He's not going to win it. If you took Manny Machado off the Padres this year, my God, how ugly would this team look?
Yeah, it would not be.
It would not be good. However, that being said, the MVP of the National League is going to be Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah, Leland also brought up Freddie Freeman, which
Freddie Freeman has been great. I think
in the conversation.
I think Freddie Freeman absolutely does. Freddie Freeman, I think, has arguably had a career year with the Dodgers. My thing with the reason I don't think he'll win it is also an argument I kind of make against Goldschmidt, is that he has so many other caliber players around him.
Yeah, I mean the plate protection around Freddie Freeman is crazy.
It's insane. Like you're sticking him between Betts and Turner. I mean, or just
honestly, you're not even sticking him. They hit before him.
They hit it before him. Yeah, he hits your 3-hole. I mean, sometimes he hits 2-hole, but yeah, he's typically their 3-hole guy. But I mean, that's the thing too. Like that's for me why I think Machado should get more attention. Yes, they have Soto now, but for much of the season, it was just Manny Machado. Like they were like Cronenworth's a really good player, but
he hasn't been playing that well.
He hasn't. I mean, he was an all-star this year. He's been like still since the start of 2020. He's like the 3rd highest F4 player at second base behind Altuve. But he had no protection, and he still put up godly numbers. As to where with Goldschmidt, he had Arenado. He even had Pujols down the stretch.
Yeah.
As to where with Freeman, he had Trey Turner. He had Mookie Betts. He had Justin Turner. He had all these guys. Will Smith, like loaded. So I think Goldschmidt will win it. I do wish though Machado would have gotten more of a look on it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be Goldschmidt.
Mm-hmm.
And hats off to Freddie Freeman for coming to LA, especially after all that debacle in the beginning of the year for playing so well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that's just a weird situation.
Just a weird situation. Weird. And I still hang on it. I mean, this was a hot take from a long time ago, but since we're talking about the Dodgers, Will Smith might be one of the most underrated players in the league.
Will Smith, I think, is one of the most underrated. I think he gets lost in the fact that he plays on a star-studded team with the Dodgers.
I think he does, but my God, I mean,
he's like when James Harden was on the Thunder. Everyone talked about Russ and Kevin Durant, but he was still a guy who was there. Everyone just kind of forgot about him because there's so many other dudes.
I think people also forget his numbers don't look as good when you look at Freddie Freeman, Trey Turner, those kind of guys. But you also forget that he's a catcher.
Yeah.
And these numbers for a catcher are like insane right now.
No, he's easily the best catcher in baseball. If there's any sort of question surrounding how that needs to be put to sleep, but
yeah. So anything else you want to touch on before we go?
Yeah, the Bengals are going to beat the Ravens on Sunday.
We'll see. It's Sunday Night Football.
Should be a good game.
It should be a good game.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on how Lamar comes out.
We'll see.
Again, right now I'm really high on Lamar, so I haven't picked my pick'ems. Is it in Cincinnati or is it
It's
in
in
Baltimore?
Baltimore. Baltimore's lost 5 straight home games. Did you know that?
I know. I did see
That's
that.
weird.
It's weird.
Odd.
It's strange, but we'll see.
We'll see how it goes.
I mean, John Harbaugh, he's still one of my favorite coaches in the league, but
Looking
I
a
think
little
he
fishy
knows
right now.
I think he knows his defense just sucks.
I think he does know it too.
I think he didn't say that because he can't say that about the 4th down decision, but I think he literally, that was probably his thinking. Like, my
I'll
blows.
I mean, I think I'll be excited to see how it looks. I mean, Marlon Humphrey talked so much this offseason about, getting ready to lock down Chase, but we'll see.
Also, who got the last laugh between Tyreek and Eli Apple?
Eli Apple did one. Unbelievable. How crazy is that? Well, that next gen stat, Eli Apple allowed 1 reception for 7 yards to him. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy, but it's funny.
It's funny. I mean, again, I think Eli Apple gets so much shit for that game. He's been actually solid since he's been in Cincinnati. And the fact that he did that to Tyreek Hill is kind of comical.
Yeah, it's just funny. I mean, again, it's not like I hate Eli Apple. Like, people love to clown on him, but he's a fine number 2. Like,
he's like our number. I would say he's more of like, number 2,
well,
3
he's
guy.
number 2. He's your number 2 because
he's our outside. Yeah.
Because Mike Hilton never goes outside.
Nickel, yeah. But I mean, yeah, he's been solid for us. Like, I'm
he's
glad I'm glad we have Eli Apple.
I could talk about a lot of other corners who I think get a more on consistent basis than him.
I know. And it was even great to see the last play of that game. Eli Apple batted the ball away from Tyreek Hill in front of him. It was like, you got to be kidding me. I think it was just funnier too, because the stupid, like, cringy, like, I owe, like, what?
Yeah.
Whatever.
I don't get why you care. You're the highest paid wide receiver in the league.
I know. And you're considered about a guy who's on a 1-year, $6 million deal.
Well, and you're considered the number 2 receiver of the Bengals. Like, at least talk about a Woozier. Like, if you're going to talk about, at least talk about the shutdown guy on the other side.
Don't talk about the guy who's like going to be lined up against Waddle. Like, not, I mean, good God.
It'd be like you're going into Dallas and like you're calling out. I don't even know
like Javon Curse. You call out Javon Curse.
Yeah,
not Trayvon Diggs.
You're not calling out Diggs. You're calling out Curse. Like,
and I was like, okay,
it's just dumb. Like,
no, that was funny. So yeah,
it's funny. It's whatever, Tyreek.
Don't call out number 2 corners.
Yeah, like, what are you doing? You shouldn't even be going up against number 2 corners.
I know, like,
completely honest.
Like, the fact that was on his mind, it's like, all right, great. So yeah,
like, obviously you were still really bitter about the AFC Championship loss. So
clearly,
congratulations, dude.
All right.
Well, so this has been our show. I hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and like the video. Make sure to follow us on all podcast platforms. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. And make sure to just reach out to us whenever you can. Thanks for enjoying the content. Thanks for being a part of it. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
Appreciate it, guys.